There's something absolutely chilling about people who appear to have everything together on the surface: successful career, stable family life, impressive credentials. But underneath that polished exterior, there's something fundamentally broken, something dangerous that's been simmering for years, just waiting for the right trigger to explode. Let me tell you about Amy Bishop. It's March 2008, and Amy Bishop, a biology professor at the University of Alabama, is sitting in her office between classes, sorting through her mail. Just routine stuff, memos, announcements, the usual academic paperwork. But then she opens one particular envelope, and everything changes. The letter is from the Dean of the College of Science, and it contains news that will set Amy Bishop on a path that ends in murder. The letter informs her that she's being dismissed from the university, effective February 26, 2010. She's being told that the spring semester of 2010 will be her last at the institution. The reason? She hasn't made tenure. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with academia, tenure is a huge deal. It's basically job security for life in the university system. Professors spend years working toward it, publishing research, teaching classes, serving on committees, all building toward that moment when they're granted tenure and their position becomes permanent. And Amy Bishop had just been told she wasn't going to get it. But before we get to what happened next, let me tell you about Amy's background, because understanding who she was helps explain what she became. From an outside perspective, Amy Bishop looked like she had it all figured out. Born on April the 24th, 1965, she was married with 4 children and impressively educated. She'd earned her undergraduate degree from Northeastern University in Boston, then went on to get her PhD in genetics from Harvard University. In 2003, she became an assistant professor at the University of Alabama. She wasn't just focused on teaching either. Amy had partnered with her husband to develop a portable cell incubator, technology designed to maintain and support the growth of microorganisms during biological experiments. They'd even entered their invention into a competition where they won 3rd place and $25,000. Amy also had some notable family connections. She was the second cousin of famous author John Irving. And back in the 1990s, when she was living in Massachusetts, she'd pursued writing herself, joining the Hamilton Writers Group. She hoped that becoming a successful author would allow her to leave academia behind entirely. She wrote 3 novels. None of them were ever published. So on paper, Amy Bishop looked successful, accomplished, someone who had achieved what many people only dream about. But scratch beneath that surface, and you'd find someone very different, someone with serious problems. Members of the Hamilton Writers Group would later recall that Amy constantly tried to establish her credibility as a serious writer by bringing up her Harvard degree and her connection to John Irving. She name-dropped incessantly. But more than that, they found her to be abrasive and self-righteous. She seemed to believe she was inherently deserving of praise and recognition, regardless of whether her work actually merited it. At the University of Alabama, Amy's behavior raised red flags with her colleagues as well. During her tenure review meeting, she learned that one of her colleagues on the board had referred to her as crazy. Amy's response? She filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. During faculty meetings, several professors accused her of acting erratically. Her behavior was unpredictable, sometimes inappropriate, and she wasn't popular with her students either. In fact, they saw her as a poor instructor. Students felt she was ineffective in the classroom and behaved in ways that were odd and unsettling. Some of her students were so frustrated with her teaching that they actually signed a petition requesting that the university take action. Nothing ever came of it, but the fact that students went that far tells you something about how bad the situation was. There's another detail about Amy that really demonstrates her character. She once published an academic article and listed her husband and children as co-authors. Think about that. Academic authorship is supposed to reflect genuine contribution to research, and she was padding her publication record with the names of her own kids. According to the university, Amy didn't receive tenure for several concrete reasons. First, she hadn't submitted all her research papers in time to get them published, so they didn't count toward her tenure application. The university board also felt she was spending too much time seeking patents for her portable cell incubator instead of focusing on her academic responsibilities. But there were darker parts of Amy Bishop's past that the university didn't know about. Parts that, if they had known, might have made them reconsider hiring her in the first place. Back in 1986, when Amy was just 21 years old, she fatally shot her own brother. But no charges were brought against her because it was ruled to be an accident. Then in 1993, both Amy and her husband were suspected of sending a letter bomb to Paul Rosenberg, a colleague of Amy's at Harvard University. The device failed to explode, and authorities didn't have sufficient evidence to bring charges against the Bishops. But the suspicion was there. In 2002, Amy was charged with misdemeanor assault and disorderly conduct for punching another customer at an International House of Pancakes in Peabody, Massachusetts. Over what? We don't know the exact details, but imagine getting so angry at a pancake restaurant that you physically assault another customer. This wasn't someone with just a bad temper. This was someone with a long pattern of violence and inappropriate behavior. And the University of Alabama had no idea. Now let's go back to February 26, 2010. It's been nearly 2 years since Amy received that letter telling her she wouldn't receive tenure. She's known for all this time that this semester would be her last, that she was being pushed out of the institution. That same morning, she was scheduled to attend a faculty meeting for the biology department. The meeting started around 3 p.m. 12 of her colleagues gathered around a large oval meeting table to discuss department business. Just a routine faculty meeting, the kind that happens at universities across the country every single day. Amy sat there silently as the group worked through their agenda. She didn't participate much. She just sat there, listening, waiting. After about 40 minutes had passed, Amy stood up, and she pulled out a 9mm handgun. She shot the person sitting next to her in the head. Then she methodically moved around the table, shooting each person in the head one by one. This wasn't a panicked spray of bullets. This wasn't someone firing wildly in rage. This was calculated, deliberate, execution style. The people sitting on the opposite side of the table tried to take cover on the floor, scrambling to get away from the gunfire. One of the survivors, Deborah Moriarty, would later describe the scene. This wasn't random shooting around the room, this was execution style. Moriarty survived only because Amy's gun jammed when it was her turn to be shot. In that moment, while Amy was struggling with the jammed weapon, Moriarty and others rushed toward her. They managed to push Amy out of the room and then barricaded the door to keep her from getting back in. When it was over, 3 people were dead and 3 others were wounded. 3 colleagues, people who had sat in countless meetings with Amy, who had worked alongside her, who were just doing their jobs that day, were murdered simply because Amy Bishop couldn't accept that she hadn't made tenure. On September 11, 2012, Amy was charged with 3 counts of capital murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole and sent to the Julia Tutwiler Prison for Women in Alabama. But even in prison, Amy's violent tendencies didn't stop. While incarcerated, she was hospitalized after attacking another female inmate. You know what's truly disturbing about this case? Amy Bishop had shown warning signs for decades. The shooting of her brother in 1986, the suspected letter bomb in 1993, the assault at IHOP in 2002, her erratic behavior at the university, her students' complaints, her colleagues' concerns. But nothing was ever done. The 1986 shooting was ruled an accident. The letter bomb couldn't be proven. The IHOP assault was just a misdemeanor. The university complaints went nowhere. And so Amy Bishop continued on, her sense of entitlement growing, her inability to handle criticism or rejection festering, until finally she was faced with something she couldn't manipulate or talk her way out of: the denial of tenure. For most people, not getting tenure is devastating but survivable. You find another job, you move on, you rebuild. It's a career setback, not a life-ending catastrophe. But for Amy Bishop, it was intolerable. She'd spent her entire life believing she deserved recognition, deserved success, deserved to be seen as brilliant and important. And when the university told her she wasn't good enough, when they rejected her, something in her snapped. Or maybe it didn't snap. Maybe it had been broken all along, and the tenure denial just finally gave her a target for all that rage and entitlement she'd been carrying around for years. 3 people died that day: Gopi Podila, Maria Ragland Davis, and Adriel Johnson. They had families, friends, students who looked up to them, research that would never be completed, lives that were cut short. And for what? Because Amy Bishop couldn't handle being told no. That's what makes this case so infuriating. The senselessness of it, the absolute waste of it all. 3 people murdered, 3 others wounded, countless lives destroyed, all because one woman's ego couldn't survive a professional rejection. Amy Bishop is exactly where she belongs, locked away for the rest of her life. But those 3 people she killed, they're gone forever, and nothing will ever bring them back.